Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. Tonight we'll have analysis of rulings by the United States Supreme Court during its recent session. Also, the Arizona voter registration law was struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. And in SOC, Sounds of Cultura, learn about a group of artists inspired by the artist Frida Kahlo. All this coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. The United States Supreme Court released a number of rulings in its just completed term. Joining me tonight with analysis of this session and the long-term impact of these rulings is ASU Law Professor Paul Bender. Professor Bender, thanks for joining us on Horizonte. This kind of a yearly ritual. I know there's been a lot of commentary. You've given some on the most controversial decisions, or at least the big news ones, Defense of Marriage Act and so forth. Yeah. Well, I'd like to focus a little bit more on some of the broader implications and what we're seeing. The analysis I've seen of the decisions has pointed out, for example, that Justice Kennedy was on the 5-4 decisions, was in the majority on 20 of 23. Yeah. What does this say about the importance of his role?
Well, his role has been important for years, and what it says is that it continues to be important. It's very hard to find a case where Justice Kennedy doesn't get what he wants. Even when somebody else writes the opinion, Justice Kennedy seems to have influenced what happened, because he probably said, I'm not going to join that opinion unless you make it this way, because he's the fifth vote in so many cases. And so it's really the Kennedy court. The thing that I found most interesting was at the end of the last term, when Chief Justice Roberts joined with the liberals to uphold Obamacare, a lot of people said, oh, the court is changing. It's now going to be Roberts' court. He'll be in the middle. He's a statesman. He's going to rescue the court from the solid blocks, partisan blocks that have been there for years. And this term was going to be a test of whether that happened. And he flunked the test, or it flunked the test. It did not happen. This term was just as solidly partisan on both sides. Roberts was just as solidly conservative as he's been. And so it's Kennedy who, in case after case, what happens is what Kennedy wants to happen.
Well, and I've seen some analyses indicating that Justice Roberts, even when he's voting with the liberals, it's to lay the groundwork for a future conservative decision, and he gets some concessions from liberals in decisions that go their way, and he joins with them, and then uses that in cases, and there were some examples of that.
He did that in the Voting Rights Act case this time. He had gotten, I think, Ginsburg and Breyer to join with him in really criticizing the Voting Rights Act several years ago. And now, when he holds it unconstitutional and they dissent, he says, oh, those two people joined my opinion when I said so-and-so. I don't think it works to force them into doing something that they don't want to do, but he is a long-term planner. He knows where he wants to go, and he uses his power. Sometimes he'll join a liberal majority so he can assign the opinion to somebody who will write an opinion that's more like what he likes. For example, in the Arizona voting registration case, he and Scalia joined with the liberals, and he assigns the opinion to Scalia, who wrote an opinion that I'm sure was much more favorable to Roberts' point of view than the opinion would have been if Ginsburg or Breyer had written it.
Now, there's been a lot of discussion about the liberals versus the conservatives, but also more recently some discussion about the women on the court and what role they're playing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the three women on the court are the three strongest justices. Clearly, they are smart. They write well. I think they are persuasive. I think if anybody is going to bring the court together, going to break down the traditional partisan divisions, it would be somebody like Justice Kagan or Justice Sotomayor, because they're people who understand other people, and I think they can work on trying to get people together on something. I'm really impressed with them. And they are, it's true, all members of the liberal bloc. It would be nice if there was somebody like that on the other side, so that some alliances could be forged across the usual divisions.
Well, some people think that Justice Kagan is kind of the equivalent of Justice Scalia in terms of not just the intelligence that they all have, but the writing style, the ability to when they want to really put it to the other side.
Yeah, there's a lot in common about them, but there is a big difference, I think, in that I don't think Justice Scalia has ever been successful in persuading other people to join with him. And I don't think he really cares about that. He'll say what he wants to say. If you agree with him, fine. If you don't agree with him, he's okay. I think she will, as time goes on, try to play the role of getting people together, trying to figure out what common points might be that she can get a majority that's not the traditional conservative versus liberal majority. I think that's her personality. She's very good with people. She likes to bring people together. And I think that she's going to turn out in the long run to be somebody more like Justice Brennan, who in the days of the Warren Court is really the Brennan Court, because he managed to get people like Justice Blackmun to join with him in things that Justice Blackmun probably never thought he was going to do. But Brennan would figure out things that people wanted and would try to adapt his views to try to get 3, 4, 5 people together who weren't together before in order to move the law in the way that he wanted to do it. And I think Kagan might do that, where Scalia just doesn't have that kind of personality.
And I want to talk a little bit more about Justice Scalia, but before that, Justice Kagan has had to recuse herself in some very critical cases. So I would expect that as time goes on, she'll play an even greater role on the court.
Right. The recusal was stopped. She had to recuse herself because she was Solicitor General before she went on the court. And so the Solicitor General's office of the United States is involved in like 2/3 to 3/4 of the cases that the court sees. So a lot of these cases in her first couple of years on the court were ones she'd worked on when they were in the lower courts or when the petition for cert was being granted. But that should be over now, and she would be able to participate. This year, the one case that she did not participate in that was important was the affirmative action case from Texas, where it was a challenge to the Texas race-conscious affirmative action program, and there were only 8 justices instead of 9, and because she was recused. And I think what happened was there were 4 conservatives want to overrule the Supreme Court's decision called the Grutter case that approves of affirmative action to get diversity in higher education, and the 4 people, Kennedy and the 3 liberals, don't want to overrule Grutter. So if they had voted that way, it would have been a 4-4 tie, and there would be no opinion, and the lower court decision would be just affirmed. Chief Justice Roberts moved over, joined with the liberals and Kennedy, assigned the opinion to Kennedy so that it would come out less favorable to affirmative action than the lower court opinion. So if Kagan had been there, that could not have happened, because if Kagan had been there, then she and the 4 liberals and Kennedy would have made the majority, and Ginsburg would have assigned the opinion, and we would have a much more pro-affirmative action opinion. So those little subtle things happen, but that's not going to happen anymore because she'll be in every case from now on.
And we've been making reference to Justice Scalia. Is it just my imagination, or has he been more irascible and cranky this term than even in the past?
I think he's been cranky all the time. I don't notice him getting more cranky. And in fact, he joined a couple of times with the liberals this time, which he doesn't often do. But for his whole career, he has been not so much cranky, but he can be nasty to his colleagues. When he disagrees with them, he doesn't just say, I disagree with you. He says, you're wrong, you're crazy, you're stupid, you're irrational. Nobody could possibly think that. That's his style.
And a lot of readings from the bench, his decision, which is not a normal practice.
Well, it used to be, but it isn't anymore. And I think those are the kinds of things that make it hard for him to be somebody to bring the court together, because he doesn't treat his colleagues as some people he wants to agree with. He wants to say what he wants to say, and if he disagrees with them, he just wants to make that clear. He doesn't want to compromise at all.
And a couple of those decisions where you noted he joined with the liberals, those tend to be Fourth Amendment search and seizure, where he's very strong on the rights of individuals against government intrusion.
Right, that is one area. Another area where he takes a strong position like that is in the Confrontation Clause. He believes that experts should have to testify rather than just hand in reports, for example, and that hearsay evidence should not be brought in as much as it is. People have a right to confront the witnesses against them.
And the DNA ruling, which
well, and the DNA ruling was really interesting, I think, earlier in the term, and there he joined with the liberals to dissent from the decision that Kennedy wrote that permits police to take DNA from everybody they arrest, just the way they take fingerprints. In this case, it was serious crimes, but I don't think it can be limited to that. And he wrote an opinion in which he said, this is really bad for the future. Something very bad is going on here. And it wasn't clear to me what he thought bad was going on, but it was clear that he, like a lot of liberals, really worries about the government's intrusion on his privacy. So that is one area where...
Paul, just one last question. Justice Ginsburg, who apparently is very close friends with Justice Scalia, but though they couldn't be more opposite, in their opinions, and she too read a number of her dissents from the bench. She's obviously getting up in her years. What do you think we can expect over the next few terms from her?
Her health was bad a couple of years ago, but I think she's recovered from that. And I know she seems frail, but her voice has always been weak, and she is getting on. She's over 80, but she wants to stay on the court. And I don't think she's going to leave unless she's forced to leave by health. And right now, I don't see anything that's going to force her to leave. Some people have suggested that maybe she would leave while Obama was still president to make sure that he would get to replace her rather than the person who replaces him. I don't think she'll do that. That's not her. She's not political in that way. She wants to be on the court. She wants to do what she wants to do, and I think she'll stay as long as she can.
And on that note, Paul, we're done for now. We'll see you again, hopefully sooner than next July, but thank you so much for joining us on Horizonte.
To find out more information about what's on Horizonte, go to azpbs.org and click on the Horizonte tab at the top of the screen. There you can access many features to become a more informed Horizonte viewer. Watch interviews by clicking on the video button or by scrolling down to the bottom of the page for the most recent segments. Learn about more specific topics like arts and culture and immigration. You can also find out what's on Horizonte for the upcoming week. If you would like an RSS feed, a podcast, or you want to buy a video, that's all on our website too. Other features include our collection of website links and a special page for educators. While you're there, show your support for Horizonte with just one click. Discover all that's on Horizonte. Visit azpbs.org, Horizonte today.
During its recently completed term, the United States Supreme Court upheld a lower court ruling in dealing with a part of the Arizona voter registration law, held it unconstitutional. Joining me to talk about that decision and the Voting Rights Act case, another controversial case, is attorney and past chairman for the National Council of La Raza, Daniel Ortega. Danny, thanks for joining us on Horizonte.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, in many ways, you've been directly involved in both cases. One specifically, the voter registration law. You were counsel for one of the parties. Tell us about that case.
Well, the case started initially as a challenge to Proposition 200, both provisions, those dealing with state benefits for the undocumented as well as changing the voter registration laws of the state. Ultimately, the only thing that survived was the challenge against the part of Prop 200 that, one, changed the manner in which you registered to vote, which meant that you had to provide proof of citizenship, and two, the manner in which you voted, which means you had to provide an identity document to show that you were the person that you said you were. We challenged those provisions, and unfortunately, at the trial level, we lost it. We took it to the Court of Appeals, and the portion of that we went at the Court of Appeals was the one where the court agreed with us that when it came to the federal form under the voter motor law that allowed people to register to vote without proof of citizenship, that the state was preempted from requiring a citizenship proof in order to register to vote. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people registered with the federal form, and their registrations were rejected because they didn't provide proof because the form didn't require it. All it required was an attestation. Remember, before Prop 200, everybody could register to vote if they said they weren't a felon, they were over 18 years of age, and they were U.S. citizens, sign here, and they were registered to vote. Under Prop 200, that changed. The particular challenge was only whether the state could impose on a federal form the requirement to show proof of citizenship. That was the only issue.
Scalia said no.
Yeah, Justice Scalia and the majority of the court said no.
Was that a surprise that Justice Scalia was voting in the majority there?
It was a big surprise to me, but after reading the opinion, Justice Scalia had to add more to his majority opinion, where he was telling the state of Arizona, well, this is a problem, folks, but you can remedy this. You can go to the Elections Commission and try to get a preemption.
And some people think that
that
was inappropriate for Justice Scalia to basically tell the state this is how you can fix it.
Well, you know, there have been other situations, SB 1070 and other decisions where he's been in the majority and he's done this. He's got a history of this. This isn't the first time.
Let's move on to what many people think is a much more significant decision. That's the Voting Rights Act. Again, you've been involved in part at the ground level on a lot of these issues. Tell us about that case.
Yeah, well, I've been involved in 2 major Voting Rights Act cases, other than the one we just talked, as well as on the ground in terms of the Voting Rights Act. What happened in the Voting Rights Act is that you have Section 4 and Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which we only have time to deal with here. Section 4 basically has the mechanism or the formula for which states, which localities, municipalities, counties, should be included in the pre-clearance process. In other words, you cannot pass a law that changes an election law without first getting through pre-clearance by the federal government. What the court said that the formula and the facts that were used to support that family were antiquated, that it went back to the 60s, and that the facts of the 60s did not fit the situation today. The court, I think historically, did well in saying, look, what existed in the 60s, okay, in terms of the blatant discrimination, particularly against African Americans in the South and Latinos in the Southwest to some degree, had to stop. It was discriminatory, and that's why the Voting Rights Act was passed. And as it continued to be extended, a lot of the same facts, according to the court, a lot of the same facts that were being used to support the extension no longer applied to the situation today. And as a result, they invalidated and declared unconstitutional Section 4, which is the mechanism for determining who should be a part of preclearance.
Under Section 5.
Under Section 5. Now, Section 5 is still alive, but in essence, it's dead because there's no formula. I mean, who's going to be covered and who's not?
So many people have said those provisions may be effectively dead, but the Voting Rights Act isn't.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to understand that, Jose, that the Voting Rights Act is alive and well. The part of the process is what's dead. What we used to use as people of color, Latinos in particular in Arizona, is the scrutiny to which the legislature, commissions like the Redistricting Commission, the scrutiny that they were subject to in preclearance to make sure that the Voting Rights Act was complied with. That will not exist. This is what I said to somebody the other day. We had the biggest law firm in the country, okay, helping us to make sure that the Voting Rights Act was properly applied, and that was the federal government. That now is out of the equation until, as the court says, until the Congress has a different formula for determining who should be included in preclearance.
So ultimately, maybe not that big of a deal, but it'll just make things harder. Danny, thanks for joining us on Horizonte to explain the case.
Thank you for inviting me.
Tonight in SOC, Santa Cultura, they call themselves the Phoenix Fridas, Valley artists sharing their inspiration from the works of artist Frida Kahlo. We'll hear from a guest about this group in a moment, but first, here is some of their work. And joining me now is Carmen Guerrero, a member of the Phoenix Fridas. Carmen, we're going to talk in a little bit about some of the images we saw on the screen as the intro to this interview. But before we do that, tell me about the Phoenix Fridas, how it was formed, and what its inspiration and purpose is.
Well, it was inspired by Frida Kahlo, of course, the great Mexican artist. And it was started by Kathy Murillo. She's a local author and a crafter, and she has she's been doing craft shows all over the country, and there was a movement of all these other groups calling themselves really funny names, like, the Houston Pistol Girls, or because of the glue guns and stuff like that. So she thought, why don't we start a group called the Phoenix Fridas? It's hot. We're rising from triple-digit temperatures to be creative and to come together. So that's how we came together about 10 years ago.
Now, you've done a number of shows. Those pictures that we saw are from one this summer. But also, there's an educational component. I understand some panel discussions.
Yes, we're going to have a panel at the Phoenix Library. And every time we do an exhibition, we talk about why Frida. Why does Frida inspire each one of us? There's 10 of us right now. And we have different media. We are different types of artists. Some of us are painters. Some of us are beaders, like I do beadwork. So we talk about why Frida inspires all of us. And the idea is to also educate the young girls or aspiring artists to find out more about this incredible artist, this amazing woman, and also to find art inside themselves.
And is there one common theme when the 10 of you talk about how she inspired you? Is there one common theme that kind of dominates the discussion?
Well, at this coming panel discussion at the Phoenix Public Library, we're going to be talking about I Paint My Own Reality, which is a quote from Frida's diary. She talked about painting her own reality, and I think that's what we all do individually. We all have different gifts and different abilities.
And we're going to see how that's reflected in some of the pictures going back through them. This first one here is an Emily Costello piece.
Yes, she's a painter.
And I think she's got 3 or 4 that are particularly evocative of Frida Kahlo's face. And we'll just run through them as we're talking. This is one of hers, and we've got several more coming up that'll just go through the screen as we're talking. This one, though, is yours.
Yes,
why don't you tell us
this is
about
an
it?
installation that's inspired by the La Casa Azul, the blue house of Frida and Diego in Coyoacan, Mexico.
Diego Rivera, the
Diego
famous
Rivera.
muralist.
Yes, that was her husband. She married him twice. But anyway, I got inspired by the blueness of it, and it's so cool, especially here in the heat of the
And
desert.
we've got some of your handiwork here.
Yes, I do beadwork, so I do necklaces and earrings. You can see my Calaca earrings. I do bracelets, and I love doing beadwork. That's my media.
And this is also a piece that you've done.
Yes, I do mandalas inspired by Frida. Frida painted a lot of round paintings of flowers and birds and nature.
And what does mandala refer to?
Mandala is a even, round piece. It can be a meditative kind of piece, but it's something that's round, harmonic. It's called mandala.
Now, we've got several other artists whose work is represented here, and I think I referenced some other pieces from Emily that we're going to have up here, but this is a different artist. Who
Yes,
is this?
this is Anita Mabanche Leach. We call her Panchita Frida, and she does quilting. So this is called the Stars in Your Eyes quilt. And it's a big piece. It's like 3 by 5 feet long, 3 feet by 5 feet long. It's hanging
And the
up.
serpent being a theme in a lot of Mexican art and history.
Yes, definitely. It takes her inspiration for her Mexican roots.
And what about this piece? This is very striking.
This piece is by Veronica Verdugo Lomelí, and she called this La Frida Muerta. And she does all these overlays of symbols like the butterfly and the heart.
And this one also seems to pick up the Day of the Dead theme.
Yes, this is Frida and the Day of the Dead, La Frida Muerta. That's what she calls it,
The Dead Frida.
the dead Frida.
Another Emily Costello.
Yes, this is called Las Palomas, the birds or the
doves.
The doves, exactly. And this is evocative of Frida. Frida always wore very Mexican, dresses or huipiles. So that's what their painting reflects. And a lot
Huipil
of
referring to the
what I'm wearing
sarape,
today is
yeah.
a huipil, like a sarape. Yes, and the shawl also that's very evocative of Frida dressing. She
and
always
very,
had
very
shawls.
colorful.
Oh, her colors are amazing. She paints in oils, and she's an incredibly gifted painter.
And we've got some more that we'll put up on the screen. This is another Costello.
Yeah, there's another one by Emily. This is called Non Te Olvides, Don't Forget Me. And it's a picture that she got inspired with Frida's wedding picture. When Frida got married the second time to Diego, she was wearing a dress similar to what she painted in that picture.
And the group's been together for 10 years.
Right.
What do you see going on in the future? More of these exhibitions, more education, or what?
Yes, I think so. More exhibitions, more education, and maybe I see ourselves having like a role in our community to be fundraisers or to bring in some kind of awareness. I'd like to think that we can bring awareness to women's issue. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's kind of like we talk about it. How can our group have sort of like a social mandate? Because Frida was very involved in her community and very out of the box the way she did her life.
So even though she's been dead for now almost 50 years.
Almost 50 years, yeah.
Very much present here. Thank
Actually,
you so much.
over 50 years.
Over 50 years. Thank you so much, Carmen, for joining us on Horizonte to talk
Thank
about
you.
Frida Kahlo. And that is our show for tonight from all of us here at Horizonte. I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.